Got a couple storms ready to strike as El Nino is kicking in, one in the southeast, one along the southwestern coast. And as you can see on the models, both of them look to be pretty slow moving, so some flooding concerns with that. Plus, I've got a Thanksgiving preview for you in this forecast, so stick around to get all the details.
One Nation Weather.
I've got a slightly different graphic system that I'll be unveiling at times throughout this video, so let me know in the comments what you think of that. But let's go ahead and get through the next few days of precipitation for us here using pivotal weather. And you can see moving along the Gulf Coast for us here, especially into portions of South Texas and southern Louisiana as we go into our Monday. We're going to have a pretty hefty system, slow moving low pressure, really a classic El Nino-like low, and it's going to be just kind of dragging along the Gulf Coast. Wouldn't be shocked if we saw several systems like this as we head into the winter, but nonetheless, another thing that looks like El Nino is this storm that's going to be moving into California as we go towards our Tuesday wall. The one along the Gulf Coast moves to Mississippi, Alabama, the Florida Panhandle. You can see it takes until about early Thursday morning for that system to slide all the way on over towards Florida Panhandle, while rain and maybe some mountain snowfall get going into the Sierras of California for us. They're also a very weak low pressure system in the northern parts of the Mountain West. Eventually, though, what you can basically see here is that we're getting El Nino west to east trajectory along the southern jet stream out of these systems, and you can see the slow movement of them really being a flooding problem as well. So in terms of the chance of at least 1 inch of rain from November 13th through November 17th, so basically during the course of this week, the chance is very high for us here along the Gulf Coast, along the I-10 corridor, as well as eastern Florida, but really all the way on up into the northern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, we have that risk, and then along the west coast, especially into portions of northern California, that's where we have the best chance for an inch of rain there, with the chance for, of course, in those red areas, maybe 2 to 4 inches of rain, of course, as well. This map isn't saying that you'll only get an inch of rain in those colors. Now, with flood zones to watch, these are the areas I'm highlighting for us here along the west coast and then in the along the Gulf Coast for us. Overall, since there's been a good bit of dry conditions over these areas, I wouldn't expect much flooding, but be ready for some ponding and some dangerous conditions on the roadways. By the way, like, subscribe, comment. I cover all types of weather across the United States. Now, let's get into the next graphic. This is your temperature anomaly tracking. You can see as we make our way towards our Tuesday, November 14th, so just a couple days out, or whenever you're watching this, you can keep playing because I'm going to move this forward. You can see 10, 15, 20 degrees above where we should be for this time of the year over the north-central United States, and that's really going to be the dominating pattern ridging over the course of the next 6 to 10 days. But I'm going to show you something that really indicates a southerly flow, and a stout southerly flow at that in just a minute. 10 to 15 degrees above average moving into the Midwest, into the southeast even, as well as portions of the northeastern United States by the end of this week. This is November 17th, so 5 days out. You can see how that gradually moves eastward. And then look at this. Eventually, we begin to see more warming in the plains. And you can see that kind of that thin layer directly from Texas all the way on up to the Dakotas. That is a stout south to north flow with 20 degree above average anomalies in these areas. And what that's really showing is that we're going to have a surface low coming out of one of these systems moving that hit portions of California, ejecting and becoming a surface low over portions of the plains. And you can see how that pushes the warmer air eastward there. And eventually, in terms of your temperature trends, I would be watching for cooler air to begin to move it back into the picture by the time we head towards, say, November 20th with these systems moving through. But notice how there's another warm pocket there in the south central at that time. That could be indicative of another system if you agree with this Euro model projection. Here's what the November 18th through 22nd temperature outlook looks like. Overall, along the west, pretty close to average in those western areas. But if you live in the eastern two-thirds of the country, expect conditions to be a little bit to moderately above average during that time frame by about, say, 5 to 15 degrees. Overall, what you can expect there. And then in your precipitation outlook, the entire country near or above average, but most of it, in fact, a good bit above average, especially there in the Four Corners region, and moving on over into portions of the southern high plains for us here. This includes the panhandle of Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, the panhandle of Texas as well. These areas are really beginning to light up in the precipitation department as these surface lows move into the plains. So let's look at the European model 5 to 10 day forecast with your precipitation mode on for us here. Again, this is moving us past the system really on the Gulf Coast, as well as the initial system heading portions of the west. You can see we've got a little bit of a clipper riding the polar jet stream up here. And again, this is another thing with El Nino. The Ohio Valley normally gets skimmed because systems kind of kiss the southeastern coastline, and then other systems kind of combine with them in the northeast. But really, there's a blocking high kind of in between them. But you could see, maybe we could see an intersection zone that resembles El Nino by the time we head towards our, this is just 7 days out as we head towards our Saturday, Sunday of next weekend. But again, this is what I'm trying to show you. High pressure over the north central, very common with El Nino. System moving into the northeast. System moving east right up the coastline and very close to it. So that's something to really watch there with that pattern. And then in terms of a different low pressure system, this is one of those surface lows I was telling you about. Moving on into the plains, especially from the Dakotas on down into portions of the Arklatex. And you could see how that really develops and turns into something quite interesting and worth watching. With a southern flank of it, again, potentially loaded with some thunderstorms there, and maybe even some of them on the severe side of things. And then you could see new low pressures developing on that as it moves east. And yes, this could begin to cause some chaos as we head towards the start of your Thanksgiving week, Monday, November 20th, Tuesday, November 22nd or 21st. Even as we go towards Wednesday the 22nd, still looking a little bit unsettled, though a little bit quieter in that scenario with the Euro, and that's the furthest the Euro goes. With the GFS, again, you see this El Nino-like setup here. Although the system drags a little bit further southward through the Ohio Valley there, and you can see how those combine right along the coastline. Maybe a brief shot of some heavy snow in the interior northeast and New England with that setup that you see with the GFS. And then that secondary system that comes out of the plains that really ejects out of the mountain west, the southwest. That one looks a little bit tamer until it makes its way to the east coast, picks up more energy. And with that instance, once again, it takes it until it makes its way towards the I-95 corridor there along the east coast for it to actually really pick up steam. Now let's give a quick tropical update for you here for those of you in the Caribbean. We've now got a 60% chance of tropical development in this region. It might even have gone up right since when I'm filming this. I wouldn't be shocked if it did. We're beginning to see some model consensus in some sort of development. We're going to play out the GFS because this is one of the only times I'm actually going to agree with the GFS model, since it's the one that initially picked up on this, has been really gung-ho on this for a while. As we go a couple days into the week, this is on your Tuesday, we've got the system over portions of the Central Caribbean, not really affecting anyone yet, from places like from portions of Jamaica all the way on over into Haiti, the DR. All these areas looking pretty tame until this point. Now, with the latest scenarios, it's looking like Cuba might actually get missed with some of these more easterly trajectories that the models have been showing. You could see this would bring some big waves, some heavy rainfall for Jamaica, for Hispaniola. And you could see some of these areas, Haiti, Dominican Republic, just really getting impacted by this. This would really be skimming even maybe just a little bit eastward of you there in Jamaica. And then you could see eventually the system moving on off towards the northeast, heading on out towards the sea, but maybe in the process combining with the front and heading on up towards Bermuda as well, so something to watch there. I don't expect this to necessarily become a hurricane like some of the models initially showed. That was definitely on the higher end even then, but definitely some sort of moderate tropical storm possible out of this. And I just want to go ahead and head on over to precipitation within Radar Omega while I'm at it. And these purple and white areas, these are areas I've never shown this type of graphic before, but I'm mousing over and showing what these totals are equivalent to. Just east of you in Jamaica, and subject to change, of course, and on up into Haiti and the DR, totals of a foot to a foot and a half, even 2 feet of rain out of this system. This is serious stuff. And, if you live in any of these areas that I just mentioned, even on over towards Puerto Rico, some hefty rainfall possible. All these areas, please stay alert and monitor your local officials and forecast for the latest details, because that is some really intense and definitely devastating rain if it falls over any island communities. Thank you so much for watching this video. I've got the credits on your screen right now if you want to head to any of those sites. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and go ahead and drop a like down below, leave any comments, and subscribe. Have a great day.